Hello and welcome to another edition of Heavy Hands. I am your host, Connor. With me, as always, my dear friend Phil.
Yep.
And, well, Phil, we were right.
Were we?
Yeah. Oh.
Yay. Good. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't mention it last week. I don't think very much, but we fucking knew Rainier de Ritter was just going to be too much for Robert Whittaker. I mean, I think everybody knew that. It was so obvious.
Yeah. I mean, because we didn't talk about it, on the podcast itself, because it seemed so elementary, but we did talk about, how we were going to pick these fights.
Yeah.
And, who we were thinking was going to win. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we both agreed that the main event would be a split decision for Ritter, then it would be a decision for Petr Yan, then a decision for Sharabutin Magomedov, then a decision for Azu Almabayev, and a KO for Bogdan Guskov. Not many people would have picked that, but we did.
Yeah. And we bet on it. We bet on every single pick we made and made a vast quantity of money.
So much money.
I'm fucking loaded now.
Me too.
Well, this was a shock. Unfortunately for my ass, I do record another podcast every week where I do preview every UFC card. You're safe, Phil. I certainly quite confidently picked Robert Whittaker over Rainier de Ritter over there on the vivisection with Zane Simon. And I suspect, maybe, I mean, you're an insightful guy, Phil. You might have seen some other wrinkles, but I suspect you might have been tempted to pick old Bobby Knuckles as well.
Yeah, of course I would have. Let's be real. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like Calvin Kattar, right? Against what's his face. You have to just be like, well, if he can't beat this guy, he is washed.
Yeah.
And he's definitely on the decline, but he hasn't yet quite shown that he is washed.
Yeah.
And, because you just look at this fight being made and you'd be like, what's going to happen? Is Rainier de Ritter going to outstrike Robert Whittaker? Is that what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
As it turns out, the answer is sort of yes.
Sort of yes, yeah. He didn't just outstrike him. There certainly were, however, long portions of the fight where he was effectively outstriking him. And, yeah, I mean, look, even watching this, I thought it was a good performance from Rainier de Ritter by his standards, which is to say that, yes, watching the first round, for example, you're seeing exactly why you would have picked Bobby Knuckles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this guy's defense is shit. He's just hitting flush. Robert Whittaker is a fighter who knows how to jab even when the opponent is fighting southpaw. And he is blasting him with it, landing straight right hands. However, overall, in terms of consistent pressure, forcing the fight into phases and ranges where we know he's effective, weathering whatever damage he had to absorb, you can't really impeach Rainier de Ritter for this performance. It was a good showing.
Oh, yeah, like, he did the best with what he had, we don't really ask for more than that.
Yeah.
He was trying to make what is a genuinely quite limited set of tools work for him, and a lot of the time they kind of were working. I'm not actually sure that he won the fight as far as it goes, but
yeah, it was close.
Also, I mean, but also it's one of those ones where, like, if it's that close, then I don't really want Robert Whittaker to win it.
Because
it's going to give him the wrong idea. It's going to give him the wrong ideas about where he is in his career.
That's exactly how I feel. If it's going to be that close, I'd rather have the guy who's new to the division and hasn't yet been tested against everyone and whom I don't love dearly to get the win and go on to face even tougher opponents.
Yep.
I do point out the quality of de Ritter's strategy and his toughness and his resilience, though, to say that even watching this, Like, I think it takes a little too much from De Ridder, and also perhaps overlooks some problems that have existed in Whittaker's style for a very long time to simply say that he looked shot. Like, sure, yeah, this is a worst loss yet scenario. No question about that. But there's some things about Bobby Knuckles that have troubled him for years and years now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them cropped up. Like, you want to talk about, I wrote a piece about Max Holloway last week, which you should check out on facepunching.substack.com. Max Holloway, amazing body puncher. It's nearly a full third of his connected strikes in that Dustin Poirier fight were body shots, punches, kicks. Robert Whittaker has forever been a headhunter.
Yep.
It is rare. And, like, why? In a match, you're in there against a really tall guy whose defense isn't good to begin with. Yes, you're hitting him clean upstairs, but why not a single body shot? Did he throw a single body shot? There might have been a teep or two.
What would Michael Johnson have done in this open stance matchup?
Exactly. We credited Michael Johnson massively for that win over Daniel Zellhuber, and that was like and this is the thing with Robert Whittaker, is like, he is a very specialized fighter. To a fault.
Mm-hmm.
He is more like a Conor McGregor or a Roy Jones Jr. or whatever than he is like, well, I don't know, like Petr Yan, for example, who fought in this card. Or to go with another boxing example, somebody like Marco Antonio Barrera, for much of his career regarded as kind of a brawler with a nasty left hook. And then he had that fight with Prince Nassim Hamed, and he was like, I know how to jab. I'm just going to jab him forever. And he dominated this guy who was like a tricky, scary fighter because he wasn't scared of him, and he just did the basics. Like, at what point in a fight like this does Robert Whittaker think, maybe I should put my guard up?
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of having a hard time discerning what's a level change and what's a jab, and I'm having to do huge dynamic movements to get out of the way. At what point do you say, and I'm already gassing, at what point do you say, maybe I'll just kind of try to cover my bases, go away from the one way my most favorite way of fighting, and shore up some holes? But Whittaker isn't a fighter who operates that way. He just kind of sticks to his guns, for better or for worse.
Yeah, mostly his changes have been like broadly strategic rather than, there's fights when he will wrestle people, like Darren Till, for example.
Right.
Which was also, let's not forget, an extremely close fight against someone who didn't turn out to be very good.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Which was the other.
People still forget to this day how close that Darren Till fight actually was.
Yeah. Which was, I think, the one note of caution that I'm glad I at least mentioned when I talked about this with Zane, is that Whittaker, I think, has established issues with tall, rangy opponents.
Yep.
And I think in part because of some of these just sort of built-in aspects of his game that I'm talking about. Like, there are a lot of different things that Whittaker could do to ease the struggle against tall guys, but given that he just is always broadly Robert Whittaker, always has Robert Whittaker's skill set, and is going for Robert Whittaker's attacks, and doesn't really change up tactically in any significant way ever. Like the tall guys have just been a problem for him. Going back to Adesanya and then Darren Till, and now, it was, who knows? We didn't get to see much, but it probably would have been something of a problem against Khamzat if he'd gotten much time on the feet. And I think it was a problem.
I don't know. It's like, Khamzat is not a notable adapter in any phase of the game.
No, but neither is Darren Till.
Yeah, that's true.
And Darren Till just made Robert Whittaker supremely uncomfortable by being there and being really big.
Yep.
And
yeah. I mean, it's the way that he has to leave himself open, that leaping sort of fencing jab.
Yep.
It covers a lot of distance, but it always leaves his head in the same place.
Yep.
And then Derrida started just putting his knee where Whittaker's head might be, and he just couldn't handle it at all.
Nope.
Like, this was like 3 solid rounds of just Derrida just mostly landing the step knee and like little else.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally like a jab. And Bobby keeping his head in pretty much the same place, and just not really having the variety in his entries to discourage to make Derrida unsure of what he should be doing. Very, very ugly. I do think he was he looked pretty sharp, though. I mean, he was a few things, really. Like, he was clearly gassed after 1 round of mostly winning. Again, like, just the sheer inability to react to react to like a singular technique. It's that other thing about fighters not being able to seize initiative on their, once they start aging out. I think it's also that you get locked in and you keep trying to do the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, also, where were Robert Whittaker's kicks?
Yeah, good question. Where was the high kick?
Even
just the high kick.
Where was anything? Where were the stomps? Like, where was anything? Where was any kicking game whatsoever? And I can understand that, maybe he was worried about the wrestling from Derrida, and he was like, I'm just going to box this guy up. But again, you do need to be able to adapt. And he was still, and that's a part of being, that's kind of a part of being washed, is that he was perfectly happy to kick with Yoel Romero or Jacare or Derek Brunson, often to very good effect, because he was just like, I'm going to win this, and I'm not going to get tired, and if he takes me down, I'm just going to get up again.
Mm-hmm.
And in this fight, he was just frozen in like the most reductive part of his game for the entire thing.
Yeah, you're right.
As I said, don't know if he actually lost it on the scorecards, but I just don't want him to win it.
Right. Yeah, it would not have been a convincing performance if he had won. And I mean, the main reason I do agree, like, that there is an element of Whittaker aging and showing some mileage in ways that we haven't really seen this clearly before. The main reason I pointed out is that I don't look at this and think Robert Whittaker can't still do things like what he did to Ikram Alaskarov. You know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be a match.
I mean, he basically did that.
Exactly, yeah.
That's the thing, is that he came within inches of flatlining Derrida.
Yeah. And he still showed a lot of toughness and courage after gassing quite early in the fight to continue fighting as hard as he could through 5 rounds. Like, there was still enough of Robert Whittaker in there that I'm thinking, he will at least, sadly, be fulfilling an effective role as a gatekeeper now in the UFC for probably years to come, and will not just be losing all those fights.
I guess. What, so you're saying Brendan Allen?
Well, right, exactly. Like, he matches up with Brendan Allen. Is it possible Brendan Allen beats him? Absolutely.
I'm going to pick Brendan Allen over him at this point.
Yeah. But you're going to go in, but you won't be horribly shocked if Robert Whittaker knocks Brendan Allen out, right?
No, not at all.
So that's what I mean. Like, he didn't look completely wasted but he also didn't look great. And I think this was a combination of him, aging, and also just sort of stylistic limitations that have long been part of Whittaker's game.
Yeah, I think it's still. I mean, it's the same way that like Calvin Kattar looked like he still looked like a plodder, and I suspect he always would have struggled with the southpaw in his last fight.
Yeah,
against I still can't remember his name. Is it
Steve Garcia?
See, I thought it was Garcia. Yeah. But also, I'm just like he's also irrevocably washed.
Yeah,
like. I just think Whittaker's kind of there now. I'm not gonna pick him against anyone remotely good.
Let me look at the UFC rankings real quick. Who else is at middleweight?
It's Brendan Allen. Is Roman Dolidze. Do you want to see Robert Whittaker lose to Roman Dolidze?
No,
you want?
No, I do not. I do not want to see that. I don't want to see him fight Anthony Hernandez, even if he definitely could knock Anthony Hernandez out quickly too. Don't want to see that. I sure as hell don't want to see him rematch Paulo Costa.
No.
Paulo Costa can fight the way he did last time out. Maybe he could give him Marvin Vettori.
Again?
Yeah.
Marvin Vettori really gets to be exciting rematch that people asked for, guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, give him Marvin Vettori. He looked even
I think
shorter.
It's got to be Roman Dolidze.
Fuck you. Don't say that, Phil. Don't say that.
It has to be.
What, I thought you liked
the
this
world
man.
needs to stick things together, Connor.
I thought you were remorseful that he looked shot. I didn't realize you were like, all right, it's time for some, fresh order of glue.
I mean, there's nowhere. Where else does it go? Like, do we want him to keep winning?
Yeah.
No, he has to lose to Roman Dolidze. He has to now, because Roman Dolidze is really bad. And then he'll lose to him, and he'll be like, well, I lost to someone who sucks. Now I must retire. You know
what? The rankings apparently. I mean, maybe I need to refresh. I think I just opened this page. They haven't been affected yet by this change. Surely what'll happen is that because Reinier de Ridder is not ranked. Oh, he's ranked 13. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So and Robert Whittaker's ranked 5, so presumably they'll swap.
Whittaker's going to be something close. That would happen in boxing. What's going to happen here is that Whittaker will be 6 or 7.
Yeah. You're right.
And Reinier de Ridder will be 1 above him because it doesn't matter how bad your loss is.
You can't go down. You can only go up.
Yeah, you just trickle downwards 1 loss at a time. Marvin Vettori is still number 11. Look how he looked in his last fight. Brendan Allen moved 1 above him.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work the way it does in boxing. But given that Robert Whittaker will almost certainly still be a top 10, what are they going to do? They're going to rank Brendan Allen above him. They're going to rank Anthony Hernandez and Roman Dolidze above him. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So given that he will still be a top 10 middleweight come the next rankings update, I think the truly heartbreaking, spirit-crushing loss, which will also be less horribly violent than Roman Dolidze, who would probably fold him into a pretzel and pull his jaw off and stab him through the heart with it, they should give him Sean Strickland. Annoying tall guy, actually does have defense, will sort of mostly ineffectually pressure if Robert Whittaker tries to dance around on the outside, but will cause Robert to gas again just by constantly being there. I think Sean Strickland would beat this version of Robert Whittaker, and I don't know how Robert Whittaker could recover mentally from that.
Yeah. So you want to torture him. I'm just saying I just want him to get killed by a big, dumb person, and you want to torture him.
Well, you're still, he's going to...
I just want to put him out of his misery, and you want to...
No, you don't.
torment him.
Don't try and spin this. I know we were talking about a metaphorical death here, but whatever Roman Dolidze does to him, Robert Whittaker will wake up and have to continue existing in that world with those consequences. So yes, I'll take a little psychological torture over horrific damage that might occur to him against a big dumb galoot like Roman.
Also, you know what Marvin Vittori's current top 11 ranking is based on? His last 5 fights are lost to Brendan Allen, lost to Roman Dolidze, lost to Jared Cannonier, win over Roman Dolidze, and lost to Robert Whittaker.
Yeah.
And then that win over Paulo Costa,
Number 11. Yeah. That's what I say. I mean, that's why I'm saying Robert Whittaker will be, at the lowest, number 7.
Yep.
Kyle Bahalya is going to be above him, and Renier de Ridder will justifiably be above him, but he's not going to drop further than that. So he'll knock Jared Cannonier down to 8. And will remain a top 10 middleweight. Even though he didn't really look like much of a top 10 middleweight, if we're being honest.
Nope. That's how it goes.
So it goes. Guys like Max Holloway out here writing incredible epilogues to their legendary careers. Dustin Poirier retires, and it's maybe the happiest kind of retirement any fighter could hope for, reliving a classic fight with a rival who loves and respects him, going out in his hometown, and most of the time, these fighting careers are just circling the drain for ages, and fighters you love are getting ground into dust before your very eyes. That is the nature of the game.
Yep.
Okay. Let us take a break. When we return, we haven't discussed this, Phil, but I know we're going to talk about Petr Yan Marcus Mcghee, which was a cool showing from Petr Yan, in addition to being a fun fight. And it's nice to see Petr Yan really looking, I think, the closest to classic Yan that he has in quite some time. And we could talk about how much the matchup had to do with that. And what else? I don't know. I definitely want to mention Davy Grant versus Damon Blackshear, which was kind of my highlight fight of the undercard, and taught us some interesting things about where Damon Blackshear actually is after that breakthrough performance he had the time before that. So we'll talk about that, maybe some other things as well, after this.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this week's Heavy Hands. If you like what you hear, please consider pledging to support the podcast on Patreon. Patreon is basically continuous crowdfunding. You sign up to contribute a certain amount per month to help us with production costs and the like, and in return you get rewards ranging from a mention on the Heavy Hands website to a question or topic of your choice being discussed on the show. We have a lot more in the works to reward you for your help, and we appreciate every contribution. No amount is too small. Just head over to patreon.com and find how you can help out, the only show dedicated to the finer points of face punching. Now let's get back to it.
Hello and welcome back to Heavy Hands. We've discussed what else we're going to touch on from this card, and look, this was not a terrible night of fights, and there were some interesting results, and I'm happy to cover a few of them. We had Petr Yan, Marcus Mcghee here in the co-main event. Phil was really, really desperate to talk about Sharabullet Magomedov, who produced...
I love him so much.
Yeah, produced Phil's #1 knockout of all time not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've also got... Davy Grant, Damon Blackshear further down the card. And we might mention a few of these others as well. Bogdan Gushkov kind of sealed the notion that I was not wanting to accept, that maybe Nikita Krylov's famously durable chin is going or gone.
Yeah.
So, there's some other stuff to mention, but let's get in first on Petr Yan Marcus Mcghee, which was a really fun fight, actually.
Yeah. Petr Yan is in a weird position.
Yes.
At the moment, in that they are doing almost exactly what you would want them to do if you were a fan of Piotr Jan,
Sure.
like, he's just getting, like, fun, meaningful, like, relatively meaningful style matchups against the most, like, against just a, I want to say, like, because they're always going to be, like, interesting, competitive fights.
Yeah.
But he's just getting fights that he should be winning every single time because the person that he's fighting is essentially some lesser skilled variant of himself.
Yeah. I think they've kind of done a remarkable job of matching him. They have found a succession of opponents who are definitely good. Marcus Mcghee is certainly the lowest regarded of them, but that's fine. I mean, it ended up producing a really very classic looking Piotr Jan performance. They're all opponents who are good, but who, as you said, are just sort of gonna end up having a Piotr Jan fight where he is going to be able to tough it out and ultimately figure them out, at least enough to get the nod. And honestly, like, you might think I have a vested interest in hating Piotr Jan, much as this happens sometimes when you have interactions with fans of something. It's sort of it makes you want to root against the thing that they're so annoyingly rooting for, or getting mad at you for not rooting for as hard as you should. And I've had that experience with Piotr Jan fans, and yes, was it off-putting and annoying? Absolutely. But I like Piotr Jan. I've always thought he's a really cool, interesting fighter. And as a fan of Piotr Jan's, it actually sucked to see him lose 3 fights in a row, the last of which was a spirit-destroying domination from Merab Dvalishvili. So, personally, I'm actually kind of grateful for his sake that the UFC has been matching him this way. Like, Piotr Jan is still a relatively young man at 32. He shouldn't be completely over the hill. And now that we've seen him get 3 of these pretty straightforward matchups, I think we have seen him, like, growing in confidence and possibly getting back to somewhat close to where he started. And I think that's what you should do. I would not like it if he lost to those 3 elite fighters and then they were like, okay, now you have to fight Corey Sandhagen again or something. Like somebody else that, yeah, you've beaten them, but they're still at the top of the division, and maybe in this current point in your career they'll get the better of you. I'm happy to see him get a bit of reprieve.
Yep.
Works for me. And it seems to have worked for him. Like I said, this was a really what used to be very typical of Piotr Jan's fights. We got to see Jan applying a lot of pressure. We got to see all of the amazing, like, transitional aspects of Piotr Jan's game. All of the killer strikes that he was finding out of, like, incidental clinches. At the very end, we even got to see some of Piotr Jan's classic takedowns out of the striking phase. We got to see that textbook Osotogari from Piotr Jan right at the very end of this fight. We got to see his cool, like... I
mean, he tried it a couple of times earlier on. It just didn't work. Yeah. But yes.
But, he was flowing and putting everything together and firing off of his defense and staying very solid. And in a fight that was still tough enough, we know Marcus Mcgee's good, that it doesn't just look like he was given a walkover. I think it's pretty clear he wasn't given a walkover. He had to work for it, and he came through looking really impressive. So this was a feel-good fight for me, personally.
Yeah. I thought this was a very impressive Marcus Mcghee fight as well.
I agree. Yeah.
I thought I thought basically, short of Jan showing up looking washed, this was a pretty unwinnable style matchup for Mcghee. He was just going to get outpaced, and that it was, I mean, that it was similar enough to the Davison-Figueiredo fight where Mcghee was like, going to want to be kind of the aggressive counterpuncher, and that Jan would simply overwhelm him. Like, this was a very aggressive fight from Mcghee, like right from the beginning. Like, he'd clearly just committed himself that he was going to have like a high-paced fight with Piotr Jan, and he was going to try and be dictating exchanges. Right from, he was going to be first in as many exchanges as he could be. Mm-hmm. He was not going to let Piotr Jan get in on him for free whatsoever. And I mean, it really was mostly the transitional offense
mm-hmm.
that allowed Jan to sort of steadily, not even like linearly, because there were moments when Mcghee was, simply outpacing him.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, it allowed Jan to pull away simply because of the two things: that Mcghee would be so keen to like work his way into range that in his last strike in a combination, he would throw himself off balance, and Jan would still, some of that patience that allowed him to be overloaded by like Sterling. It does also mean that he's still in position to throw.
Yeah.
Once things are finished. And so that if Mcghee would overbalance himself and Jan would hit him with like a huge counter inside the pocket. And secondly, it was that Jan transitional clinch work.
Yep.
It was that if they ended up in clinches again, like Mcghee he would be going for, he would be trying to fight in the clinch. He would be trying to grab collar ties, but Jan just has much more tools there. He's got single collar tie, double collar tie. He's throwing elbows, body shots. Like he's,
mm-hmm.
The trip from the clinch. It's just a tremendously crafty transitional fighter, and that was where just that was where the depth really showed up. But yeah, I thought this was just a like super gutsy performance by Mcghee.
Yeah, I totally
really
agree.
Gave himself the best chance he possibly could.
Yeah. Should I say also, I mentioned this with Zane last week, I was pleased that they gave this matchup to Mcghee as well, because I think it made perfect sense for him. He's really talented. He has grown into the fighter he is now over quite a short span of time. He's kind of a latecomer to MMA and is therefore not very young.
Yeah.
So I'm happy they gave him this matchup, and I think he showed up more than well enough in it that they should give him another one like it. On at least something on a similar, if slightly more winnable, stylistic level. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed all of the creative ways that Piotr Jan found of striking out of those clinches that Mcghee kept inadvertently flinging himself into. We're talking like little stance switches with shoulder bumps to create space to come over the side that Mcghee is not defending against. We're talking about uppercuts to the body, following uppercuts to the head, hook off the uppercut, little, wrist control, turning, getting in a knee to the body. The trips that you mentioned, like,
yeah, it was just at one point he just like threw him off him with just an elbow. He had an elbow frame that he basically just used to basically bash into his face as he threw him away.
Yeah.
Just
all these cool little ways of gaining just enough space or finding just the right angle, using head position to create room for punching. And pretty much always attacking in combination when he did, even in that super tight range. I mean, that was also what really did Mcghee in those moments, or the fact that Jan was never hitting him with a single shot. And was just constantly piling on. I also thought this was a good exhibition of the value of Piotr Jan's approach to defense.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really what really allowed him to be able to be in position to throw those counters, right?
Yeah. And credit to Mcghee. He did rip some nasty body shots to penetrate that tight high guard that Petr Yan likes. I also thought this was a fight where Petr Yan kind of won all 3 rounds, and I think most people watching agree with me. All 3 judges gave Marcus Mcghee the first, which just goes to show that MMA judges don't understand what defense is, because that's a round where Mcghee is kind of bouncing everything off of Petr Yan's guard.
Yep.
And, but there are limitations to it, but Yan uses that defense really well. And in the right matchup like this, just staying tight and not having to create space and using the triggers produced by, just feeling those shots bouncing off the guard makes him a really effective pocket counterpuncher.
Yeah. Yeah, as you said, really classic Yan.
Yeah.
In a way that even the Figueiredo fight kind of didn't feel quite as much like classic Yan as this one did.
Yeah, definitely not. Some of it's matchup, and Song Yadong didn't really either. That's like a peculiarly back foot performance from Petr Yan until he kind of summons the will to start pressuring late after gaining confidence from finally starting to land more cleanly, and also kind of being forced to pressure because Song Yadong actually had a lot of early success against him. This was a fight where Mcghee was aggressive and Petr Yan met him with aggression pretty much from the get-go and seemed very locked in and responded well to the shots that he had to take, and just got into a technical brawl, which is the classic kind of Petr Yan fight. So I loved it. I had a great time watching this one. I was very happy to see Petr Yan get back to his old ways with this win, and it made me actually, now I feel ready to see him get matched with a tough matchup that I'm not sure in advance that he can handle. Although I do think they should never ever match him with Merab Dvalishvili ever again.
Yeah, that's true. Well, never say never, because there, as we've said many times, maybe
he can wait him out, are you going to say?
Yeah. Merab's style is going to age a lot worse than Petr Yan's is. I suspect. And Merab is probably going to be a reasonable chunk of Merab's career where he's going to be more washed than Yan is. So maybe they can give him a super mean, completely pointless fight once the wheels fall off Merab.
Yeah.
And Yan can just torment him.
That does seem quite possible. Merab Dvalishvili, highly physically dependent, does not have all the technical niceties that Petr Yan has. So yeah, maybe you're right, but not now.
Not now, no, not while he's in his prime or anything close to it. I would love to see the Umar fight. Yan has said that he's not interested. He's not interested in it.
Oh, okay.
That he wants, and I think Umar is injured at the moment anyway. He says he's not going to be ready to fight till October.
All right.
So I think Yan basically wants to be he's going to just try and be next in line after Corey. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I would like to see Umar against Yan.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic, of course. I'd be happy to see Petr Yan Mario Bautista. I know you'd be happy never to see Mario Bautista again, but Phil?
Yeah, I'm here.
You just hear you just hear his name and go completely dead silent? Come on, man.
Sure. Yeah, we can have that guy. He did okay his last fight, I guess.
He did all right. There's some, I think there's still a good number of other, lower top 10 and lower ranked matchups. This was already kind of a step down rankings wise, although,
actually they should do the Batista fight, right?
It sounds good. Sounds like fun.
No, I mean, just think of how I like, because I at least somewhat meme with the Batista hate, but a lot of people do really hate him, and I imagine there's a significant overlap between the people who really hate him and the insane Piotr Jan stands
that somehow
who would lose their minds if he lost to Mario Batista.
Somehow, even though that seems like a completely out of left field statement, I agree. It does seem like there would be an overlap between these people. But it also just looks, I don't know, to me as a rational human being, it sounds like a cool matchup that will deliver some interesting action. Do we want to? Well, let's fuck it. Let's take another break. We can save Shara Bullet until we get back because I have some things to say about that man, and also Damon Blackshear versus Davey Grant, and maybe mention a couple other things as well, and then maybe take 5 seconds to say how shitty next week's card is. All of that after this.
Financial support is fantastic, but there are other, even easier ways to support Heavy Hands. Perhaps the best is by spreading the word. We know our fan base. You're all cool, popular people with serious social media presences. You're tastemakers and trendsetters. Okay, there are 1 or 2 of you that don't fit that description. You know who you are, but no matter what, you can always help us out by telling folks about the show. And you can also give us a positive rating and review on iTunes and things like that. We rely on word of mouth and positive feedback to grow and improve, so thank you very much for your time and your help. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Heavy Hands. Let's talk about this fucking asshole Shara Bullet Magomedov. They gave... what do you got?
I go for it.
Well, they gave him a very cynical matchup.
Yep.
Marc-Andre Barriault, had a little moment there after his the sort of short first stage of his UFC career. He started working with Henry Hooft. Was looking, he kind of figured out how to be like a higher output fighter and a fighter with a little more movement and combination finesse in his game. And then he started getting just brutally knocked out by people. Only scraped past Bruno Silva in his last fight because Silva is even more shot than that. And they're like, okay, great. That's perfect justification to give you our star, public assaulter, Shara Bullet Magomedov. And you know what? As a win, which was very clearly set up for Shara Bullet to get back in the public's good graces after a humiliating defeat to Michael Venom Page, it didn't look that good.
No.
He actually did not really run away with this one, as I'm sure that they were hoping. He's just he's just a very limited fighter, really. He has some great natural abilities. He's incredibly fast. He's very tough. He has a natural aptitude for the kicking game, but his cagecraft sucks. His defense sucks. He has no ability to think strategically whatsoever. And he allowed a guy who got knocked out by Dustin Stoltzfus to kind of start bullying his ass, significantly as this fight wore on.
Yeah. I mean, to his credit, he came back in the 3rd round and
he's
really
tough.
went after it.
Yeah, we know he's tough.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, he's very clearly defined now, is that he's Anthony Pettis if Anthony Pettis sucked.
Yeah.
Like, because, Pettis had many ancillary elements that made him, he had all of those, like, physical gifts. But he had, he could grapple.
Yeah, that helped.
He was a genuinely extremely dangerous submission grappler.
Yep.
And he had the flaws, but they weren't as bad. So yeah, he's basically like bad, evil, ugly Tony Pettis.
Yeah, pretty much.
Marc-Andre Barriault being a fighter much like Nikita Krylov or, for that matter, Calvin Kattar. But mostly Nikita Krylov, where like the main thing that kept him functional was being just inexhaustible and extremely tough.
Yeah.
And just, his name's Power Bar, right? They were just going to keep throwing until the fight's over. And then at some point he was like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I should be, I can't simply outpace people. They hit too hard and also their cardio's too good. And I should try and be better. But yeah, once his durability goes, he's not just simply not a super functional fighter anymore. But yeah, still managed to completely smash Shara Bullet's nose and almost finish him. I think as far as like Shara Bullet fights go, it's made him look flawed. But again, like at least he fought through getting his nose mashed.
Yeah,
he's clearly like in some ways like he's quite mentally tough as well.
Yeah,
he really kept going for it even after that point,
which was also part of the original Anthony Pettis recipe. That was for a long time an underrated element of his success. He was just insanely tough, and yeah, there's no question that Shara Bullet is insanely tough. It's simply this is happening at middleweight, Pretty Tony was a lightweight, man.
Yep.
And at middleweight, like just being really fast and having a lot of these dexterous striking abilities and being super accurate and having great timing, to have all those things and still, obviously, look, I have a bone to pick with Shara Bullet. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I don't like him. But it's nice to have a valid reason to shit on him when you get into fights like this where it's like, come on, man, you can't figure out a way to use all of those abilities to like keep a pretty shot version of Marc-Andre Barriault at bay. Like, you say you put it on him again in the third round, and he did. It's still, for most of that round, was the kind of fight it had turned into in round two.
Yeah.
It was like a sharp elbow out of the clinch with like a minute left that really put Barriault on the back foot, and then Shara Bullet started going off and just throwing a bunch of nonsense at him mostly. Flying kicks, jump knees, all I want is some structure.
Mm-hmm.
I want some intellectual problem solving from a guy who seems like in so many ways he should be a really skillful striker. And
he can fight Robert Whittaker next.
Oh God. What's wrong with you, Phil? I mean, what happened to make you this way?
I don't know.
Just the fucking
my
evil
mind just
English
goes to the
boarding
worst
school.
Possible places, just of its own accord. That would be funny.
Do you see Robert Whittaker and you're like, that's me, and you look at Shara Bullet and you're like, that's my cruel headmaster?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
You're reenacting some childhood trauma.
Yeah.
From a glue
I'm
factory.
Not happy. Why should they be?
From the glue factory perspective, I can't say you're wrong. That does seem like a fittingly horrible loss for Robert Whittaker to take, and I would hate to see it. But for that
realistically, he should fight Anthony Hernandez, not Robert Whittaker. Shara Bullet.
Shara Bullet should. I mean,
yeah, that would be funny.
It would be funny. Like, there's actually a reasonable chance that he could do enough damage.
No,
to Hernandez.
There's no way. He'd be in the. He'd have to literally one-shot KO him. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He would be on the cage instantly.
Yeah. It's just that Anthony Hernandez is so ropey.
He is Anthony Hernandez. Yeah.
He's so ropey on the feet that it's like anybody could land that shot on the right night. But yeah. I would like to see that. I would like to see Shara Bullet like looking pissed and feeling that things are unfair because Anthony Hernandez won't stop clinching him. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. Is basically just some bile to spray at Shara Bullet.
Yep.
I do want to talk a little bit about Davy Grant, Damon Blackshear, because I was so impressed with Damon Blackshear's previous performance. He has been a clearly physically talented fighter his entire career, and since he got to the UFC. An innately good scrambler, and we did get to see some of that in this fight. Not just the scrambling, but the ability to control dynamic positions on the ground. Like, that's why he always comes out on top on scrambles against pretty much anybody, because he just has a great sense for positions. This is a rare fight where somebody in the modern UFC spends a lot of time in back control and doesn't even try to put a body triangle on. He's so confident in his ability to use like grapevines and to adjust his hooks and allow the position to flow a little bit while remaining in control. And then in his last fight against Alateng Haile, he suddenly was like a boxer. He had a great jab. He put combinations together. He showed some great defense and counters. He also showed some really dangerous kicks, which kind of forced Alateng Haile to fight him in boxing range. And he was so comfortable and so locked in, and seemingly so skilled, despite having basically never shown any of this before in any prior fight, that he went so far as to like audibly refuse his corner when they were begging him to go for a takedown in round 3. And I was like, this is it. Damon Blackshear has turned that prospect corner. And it was for that reason. And I did not pick this fight with great confidence, actually, having said all that. It was for this reason that I was really excited to see him fight Davy Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Because Davy Grant is one of the best gatekeepers in the entire UFC.
Yeah, I was trying to think, like, who's a more unheralded, broadly skilled guy than Davy Grant? Like he's a nasty submission threat.
Yep.
He's got power. He's crafty. He's incredibly crafty in a very weird way.
Yeah. Clever and crafty and awkward.
Yeah. Just... Yeah, one of the gotta be like just one of the most genuinely underrated fighters in the entire sport, right?
100%. Yeah. And you can't say that. I mean, I don't know. Like, the other thing with Davy Grant is he basically fights like once a year.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions, but has mostly held to a schedule of 1.5 fights per year on average the entire time he's been here. It's so consistent that I have to imagine he just doesn't need to be fighting that much and doesn't care to fight that much. So how do you advance a guy like Davy Grant to get him the credit it seems like he deserves? And then also, filling that gatekeeper role, he has lost some plenty of fights to like real prospects.
Mm-hmm.
They've all been close. I will say that. Lost his rematch to Chito Vera, close fight. Lost to Adrian Yanez, close fight. Made Yanez really uncomfortable. Lost to Daniel Marcos, close fight. It is never easy, but I just think he is, like, if I put my matchmaker hat on, he is the picture-perfect gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Because he's got such a great, well-rounded game. He is strategically very flexible, and he's awkward. So to beat him...
And he's impossibly tough.
Yeah. But it is, I think it is the awkwardness, which is a major part of why he's such a good test for up-and-comers. Because I did wonder, watching Blackshear's fight with Alateng Haile, how much of this scintillating kickboxing performance was the result of A, Alateng Haile being significantly smaller than him, and B, Alateng Haile being a really meat and potatoes boxer.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who you kind of get the book on him, and he's going to up the intensity but not really add that much complexity to his attack, even if you're forcing him to attack you harder and harder as the fight goes on. And how much was that responsible for Blackshear's supreme comfort and confidence outstriking him? And now I've gotten my answer, which is it certainly had something to do with it, because he was really uncomfortable striking with Davy Grant.
Yeah. Yeah, just don't think he's... I mean, Davy Grant doing an amazing job of opening up his combinations with body shots.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, the sheer discomfort of fighting someone who is aggressive and weird, and not just aggressive and weird, but aggressive and weird and a thinking fighter.
Yes.
Who is throwing odd stuff, not for the sake of being odd, but for the sake of setting you up.
Yeah.
Like, he's throwing a big looping body shot downstairs to come behind it to go upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Every thing that he is throwing is setting something else up that he is trying to hit you with. He's not just variety for variety's sake. There is a mind behind it, which makes it particularly tricky.
Yeah.
And Blackshear was, I think, clearly just looking to be able to, dictate with a jab and so on. And he'd probably watched tape and seen people like Yanez being able to kind of do that against Grant. But yeah, the depth and at that stage in his career, the confidence of Yanez was simply, much, much higher than anything Blackshear could have displayed.
Yeah, and also just dispositionally, Yanez is a different fighter. Like, for example, those wide right hooks to the body that Grant landed so many of here against Blackshear, they were also very effective against Yanez, who also likes to get behind his lead shoulder and roll off to the right. They were effective. They were getting through. But Yanez is a guy by nature who will simply accept a firefight if he feels somebody getting through his defense like that. And he did. And it was almost the reason that it could have been the reason he lost, because it gave Grant further opportunity, having opened him up to hit him. Grant is a shockingly effective pocket fighter. But, the main reason Blackshear lost this so lopsidedly is that it got to a point where the awkwardness shut his offense down.
Yeah, because he was overloaded.
Yeah. But yeah, I love Davy Grant, man. He's just so interesting to watch. Like the cleverness and the intent. He's not like a Keith Jardine, where like the awkwardness is just, yes, it can be effective, but it is fully not of his design. He's just an awkward, unathletic person. Davy Grant is like, he's throwing these big fucking meat hooks right, left, but he's changing up the speed and the rhythm of these attacks. He looks like a guy who would just be hammering you with the most predictable right, left combos. But there's a little bit of like what Max Holloway brought to the table against Dustin Poirier. He's changing up the rhythm. He's changing up the targets. These hooks are actually coming from different angles. One's coming from underneath. One's coming from over the top. And he's combining this with shots that keep you uncomfortable in between exchanges, like the nasty calf kicks. He was hitting them
front kicks up the middle.
Yep.
He's painting his entries.
Yep.
Yeah, like, this man is 39.
I know.
And, if you'd looked at, you look at his fight with Yanez and you're just like, well, this is a crossroads fight. We know who's going to be going up and who's going to be going down after this one. Mm-hmm. And Davy Grant has almost, like, unquestionably simply had like a more successful career after that fight than Yanez has.
Yep.
Admittedly, there's a level of competition thing to consider, but still, the man is 39. And yeah, fantastic performance. Like, just looked great the whole time.
Yeah. Shored up the wrestling defense after getting taken down in the first round as well. Like, he is a really clever, attentive fighter. He has great eyes. Both for openings and for defense. Like, this was across the board actually a pretty impressive defensive performance from Davy Grant as well.
Yeah.
Not just the wrestling. So, yeah, I love Davy Grant. He has been a favorite of mine for a very long time, and I love seeing him play this part in the division. He's just one of those guys, like, I get the sense he doesn't have an overwhelming desire to be like world champion. I think he just likes fighting. He likes testing himself. He likes outfoxing people. And I don't have a desire to see him climb the ranks. I'm perfectly happy to see him, especially in a division like bantamweight, where there is, no matter how poorly the UFC scouts, a pretty steady supply of young, talented fighters who need to be tested by a guy like Davy Grant. I've always been happy to see him in this place in the division.
Yeah. And, if he goes on a Matt Brown-esque, late career run, I will be completely here for it.
Yeah.
As well. I'm happy to see him as a gatekeeper. If he outperforms that role for whatever reason, I will also be extremely happy to see it.
Yeah.
Go Davy Grant.
Shit, they could, he could be a bounce back fight for somebody like Marcus Mcghee and suddenly get like a.
Yeah, be a great fight for him.
I wouldn't count Grant out, and I wouldn't be. I'm not saying I'd be upset if he, like you said, if he suddenly had that little Matt Brown moment where his weird style just takes him to the top. But I don't have any.
Montel Jackson is ranked number 15. You telling me Davy Grant can't beat Montel Jackson?
Totally, yeah. He's just a perfect blend of weird and unique and genuinely clever and flexible that I always enjoy watching him fight.
Yeah. I love him.
Hopefully a learning experience for Damon Blackshear, who is, 30 years old, but has already shown he has the ability to make some big jumps technically from one fight to the next. And hopefully he... there aren't any other Davy Grants really in this division. There's other tough fights, of course, but it goes to show you have to make a concerted effort to grab the initiative away from an opponent, and you can't, especially with a guy like Davy Grant, you can't just be waiting on him and thinking, I'm going to figure out this guy's offense and neutralize him before I get the ball rolling for my own part.
Yep.
He will just keep you in a box.
There was maybe one fighter in the UFC in that division who could do it, and he's retired now.
Who was that?
Aldo.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. Aldo, yeah. So, I don't know if we've got anything else. We did say we were going to mention how shit next week's card is.
It's pretty shit.
It's impressively shit, actually. It's through a combination of some half-decent matchups falling apart, the UFC's classic move, despite the win for the flyweight division and for the fans with Joshua Van's main event booking, and the all-timer of a fight that he delivered with Brandon Royval, they still know how to stick some flyweights people don't care about in the main event of a card that no one should care about. And in this case, they not only did that, they had Amir Albazi pull out a week before the card and get replaced by one of the guys from Road to UFC. So it's
bad.
Yeah. And then the week after that, we have Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez.
Jesus.
So we're going to have to find a topic.
Yeah. As you said, at least Alex Brenner against Esteban River should be fun.
Yeah, that's an action fight. We might have something to say about that. The following
and next week's card was also supposed to have Grant Dawson, Joel Alvarez on, which would have also gone some way to saving it, because Joel Alvarez is increasingly becoming one of those fighters that it's just impossible to get a boring fight out of them.
Yeah. And look, I have something to say about Delidze Hernandez. I have something to say about Fili versus Christian Rodriguez. Another fight where they're asking him the question, can you beat a guy who is actually a veteran rather than just looking like a veteran against fellow prospects? So we'll have a couple fights to talk about next week, but I'm going to say right now, looks like a topic. One segment will be filled by a topic. So if you in the comments, those of you who aren't obvious Cumtown listeners who are increasingly, have you seen this, Phil?
No.
Increasingly the YouTube comments are just people saying, great show, I'm gay.
Cool.
First and gay.
Congratulations.
Yeah. A lot of people are starting their new lives in the comments and then forgetting that they came out last week and coming out again. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how a small subset of Cumtown listeners started predominating in the Heavy Hands YouTube comments. But in addition to telling us that you're gay, if you also happen to have a topic suggestion, something you'd like to hear us talk about next week, whether it's some current events shit or probably more to our taste, some conceptual element of technique or strategy, whatever, let us know. I will take a look at those and we will consider those for next week's episode. Find us on social media at Evil Greg Jackson. That's Phil on Twitter, at Boxing Bush. That's me. You can find me on Blue Sky at King Typo. And I will ask you once again to check out my Substack, facepunching.substack.com. I wrote an article called Predatory Instinct, How Max Holloway Attacks, which is all about Max Holloway's brilliant setups and unique mastery of the art of combination punching, which he displayed in that fight with Dustin Poirier. I'd appreciate it if you would check that one out. I was pretty happy with how it turned out. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Until then, if you came here today for the finer points of face punching, you came to the right place. This has been Heavy Hands.